right, guys. Good evening. This is Ron. Monday already. We get started. See if we have any questions. Uh, we're kind of, what we do. Sometimes we have these discussions on Sunday, so we're kind of all over the place. But uh, anyway, we'll see if we have any questions about anything we talked about on yesterday, or something else that may have gotten your attention. No one? Okay.
Ron,
Yes, sir.
I received a message about the burning of those boxes of the ballot boxes that was set on fire in several different
Yeah.
states. I received that, and I wanted to mention that the reason is because the person actually was sending it to me, and his sending it was to make us aware, as well as um, to make us be more cognizant of the efforts that are being done to control and eliminate votes that are perceived to be for Kamala Harris. And those of you who have not voted, when you get your ballot, make sure, I think I said this before, I don't know, make sure that there are no marks on it. Make sure that there's no writing on it, because if there is any writing or marks on that ballot, they can throw it out. And in some places, they have marked ballots or put pen mark or a letter or something on the ballot, and those ballots will not be counted. Okay?
Thank you for that information.
You're welcome. I'm done.
Are you saying to examine it when you get it? Make sure there's no marks on it?
Yeah, I think you have to do is look at it, because it's set the way it's printed, right? When it prints out, the way it's printed, when you print it out, you can tell if anything is on it or not. And do not let anybody handle it when you take it to be counted in the machine where they put it to be counted.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah.
Question, are you talking about any ballot, even when you go to a polling place?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, at the polls, yeah. Be very careful with your ballots. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Any questions, guys? Any more questions I should ask? All right. Anything else? All right. I was looking at something. Started looking at this on last week, last Monday, as a matter of fact. Can I show you something in Luke chapter 8? Okay. You ready? I'm sorry. Chapter 8, let's start in verse 40. And this is something we talked about before. This, to me, is kind of where we are. As Jesus returned, the multitude welcomed him, for they had all been waiting for him. And behold, there came a man named Jairus, and he was an official of the synagogue. And he fell at Jesus' feet and began to entreat him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, and she was dying. But as he went, the multitude was pressing against him. And a woman who had a hemorrhage for 12 years and could not be healed anymore. Could not be healed by anyone, came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. And immediately her hemorrhages stopped. And Jesus said, "Who is the one who touched me?" And while they were all denying it, Peter said, "Master, the multitude are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone did touch me, for I was aware that power had gone out of me." There's more, but I want to stop here for a minute. This spoke to me in different ways. The one thing is, Jairus' name means he who enlightens. To enlighten. How does Jairus enlighten? What's going on here? If you notice, and this is very important, the woman who had the issue of blood, the woman who was hemorrhaging, her hemorrhaging started at just about the time the young girl was birthed. So you have a girl who is 12 years old who's dying, and you have one who has been sick ever since this girl was born into the world. When you look at this, as Peter said, and I'm not going to look at this verse by verse, I just want to kind of discuss it. Peter says to him, "Why are you asking who touched you?" The multitude here, who is the multitude? The multitude represents those who are still asleep. The multitude represents those who recognize that there's something going on, but they don't see the value of it. They touched him, but not in an intimate way. And I don't mean sexual. I mean in a way that is purely spiritual. Because Jesus did not look like one of the priests. And I'm going to get to Jesus in a minute because I want you to see that as wisdom. But he did not look like one of the priests. Why do I know? Because the priests wore the robes so that it made noise, the bells on them made noise, so that people got out of their way. These people weren't getting out of Jesus' way. He looked like one of them. So he was being crowded. He was being touched all the time, but not in the same way. So it reminded me of the crowd of people there reminded me of when I first came to Greater New Faith. I remember I was searching for something, and I went to church there, and I listened intently. And the thing that got me was this was an old building with folding chairs, and I had never felt favorable to storefront churches. And it bothered me. And I left. And I stayed gone for a couple of weeks. But what was said resonated with me. And I came back. And when I came back, I was awakened. The people that that are touching him don't recognize where they are. They don't recognize the wisdom that they're in the midst of. So the touching and the crowd of people is no different than what we see now. People are excited. They see something. They don't know what they see. They're not even sure what to expect. But there are a few people out there, as we see, especially if you follow stuff sometime on social media, you should see people talking about what's going on in the universe. You hear people talking about the age of Aquarius and that sort of thing. People are starting to wake up. That's the beauty of where we are right now. People are starting to awaken. And not only are we awakening as well, but we play a role in waking up those in the universe. So, what about any questions so far before I go to the blood?
I do,
No
Ron.
questions?
This is Vermel. I have a question.
Okay.
Where it says, and I'm reading from the Blue Letter Bible, it says on verse 46, Jesus said, "Somebody has touched me, for I perceive that virtue is gone out of me." What does he mean when the virtue went out of him? What does he mean by that?
Jesus, I don't see him, and somebody help me with this. I see this as wisdom. I see the power of femininity becoming its own, coming into its own. I see the touch that he explained, as I said before, something he could feel. It was something that he shared. Wisdom came out of him. Awareness came out of him. She was looking for something pertaining to life. So if you think about the blood is symbolic of life. And so when she touched him, that's what it did. It quickened her. And what I'm trying to get to is they were all one and the same. Jesus, the 12-year-old girl, and the woman were one and the same. It's all a part of who we are. That's all of us coming together. That's the inside of you, the virtues in you coming together.
Okay.
Now,
that would be like us saying something resonates in us, right?
Something, yes, something touched me. You said
Okay.
something and made this thing touch me. I see that. I feel that.
Okay, thank you.
So Ron,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
you said that all three of them represented us, right?
Yes.
Could you speak to what each one of them represented?
Okay. I the first thing I said to you was how come Jared represents enlightenment? Jared represents enlightenment. That's why I got to start. I'm sorry. That's why Jared represents enlightenment because he was an official in the synagogue and he submitted to wisdom. All of this is internal. This is your religious side. This is that choir person. This is that deacon. This is that person who is a big dog in the church. And you recognize that something inside of you is not right. This is that search. This is that part of that humbles you. The 12-year-old represents the immaturity of religion. She reaches an age where she, if you understand bar mitzvah and bat mitzvahs, she reaches an age where she is becoming a young woman. She reaches the age where she's be considered for childbearing. So think about her and think about the other woman who should have been giving life in the earth, but she's been hemorrhaging. She's been discharging blood, which is life, all of this time. And she has been to all these churches. She's been to all these doctors, and nothing was made whole. She had not been made whole. So what you have here, you have the past, you have the present, and you have the future all in one place. And all of them get to touch the present. Jesus represents not only the present, because he touches both of them, but he also represents the future. He also represents the past, which is these two women. So if you look at 12, this number 12 is a number that says that I should be doing something more. I have come to a place where I have this thing is complete in me, and the next action is I should be producing life. Something more should be coming out of me, but nothing is coming out of me. And the woman with the issue of blood has to be healed before the young girl does. This has to take place. So, but the person, the part that puts all of this in motion is Jairus. The enlightenment. The enlightenment that he sees is in all of these people out here. I'm going to come up to this man because I recognize wisdom. I recognize wisdom. He does not dress like a priest. He doesn't have the what do you call it? The people escorting him as though he's a priest. But there's something that I feel inside of me. And I'm not sure if I'm answering y'all questions, but ask me another one. But the women represent the spirit of man. The women are the spirit of man, and it is being awakened. It is being quickened.
So, are you saying that when you are enlightened because you recognize wisdom, at that point, your life or you began to change? And what changes is the life that has been dead to you begins to flourish. And the life or the unknown life, the life that you are unaware of, that was draining from you, is healed, meaning that is brought to a place of stability. So now
Yes.
you are in the presence. You have submitted to wisdom, and because of that, your spiritual life has begun to you have become aware of your spirit, the spiritual life that you are, and in doing so, all of those things that you were missing, that you were losing because you were not aware of them, all of that outflow is healed. That outflow is stabilized. Am I right so far?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have one more thing.
Now, okay.
So then, knowing what wisdom is, right?
Yes.
What is at play here in totality is femininity or feminine energy. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's the part that I was hoping to kind of open up and get. If you can see Jesus as being feminine, not, I mean, if you can see wisdom as being feminine and him representing wisdom. So this is, if you will, Jairus becoming who he is supposed to be, This is Ron coming who he's supposed to be, recognizing and submitting to this thing that is happening inside of you, and being aware of who you are, and at no cost, at any cost, taking the risk to fall at the feet of wisdom. Submit yourself rather to that inner voice that is inside of you, and becoming what you are designed to be. And the part about him being an officer, an official in the synagogue, speaks to religion. This is the submission of religion, saying, after all these years, I have tried this, I've done this, there is a more. The more is what I feel inside of me. The more is telling me that I'm dying. I'm drying up inside. There's something wrong here. And I gotta submit to this voice that's inside of me.
So anyone who embraces enlightenment and began to search for wisdom, or understand what wisdom is,
Mm-hmm.
beginning a new life of spiritual immaturity as opposed to religious nothing. And that spiritual immaturity will help them become aware of what has been draining from them, what religion has been taken away from them. And when they recognize that it is the awareness of the spiritual life that has been being taken away from them for the purpose of church membership, when they recognize that, that is when they become whole.
Yes. Thank you. You can explain a lot better than I can. Thank you. The word daughter comes from, it's the same root as son. It is bane. And what it means is to build something up or to continue to build something. So you are the foundation, and you're building on that foundation. So the daughter is a part of who Jairus is. And she's getting weaker because religion is dying in him. Religion is dying. As long as this wisdom that we know as Jesus is growing in popularity, is growing inside of me. This wisdom is beckoning me. There's something in me that is taking hold of me, and I feel it, and I'm searching for it. So this thing that I've been trying to grow from religion cannot catch root. And although it should be at a place of maturity, it is getting weaker. It's getting so weak. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought you had paused.
Oh, go ahead, because you go ahead, because you can explain it better than I can.
I don't know about that, but when it talks about when you talk about there was draining from him. I'm sorry, been to every doctor, right?
Uh-huh.
I've tried everything. I've been to charismatic ministry. I have been to all of the church conventions and councils, and I have been active in my church on the choir, missionary, all these things I've done, and I've not found anything that gives life to me like my awareness of who I am does.
Yeah.
I've tried it, but I didn't know me until somebody need to mute your phone. Would you check and make sure all your phones are muted? Okay? Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, family. This is Evelyn. So when we were out there in the world of religion, we were hemorrhaging until we started getting knowledge of who we are or becoming aware of who we are. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm looking at this whole thing as a process. If the woman that is hemorrhaging represents the past, and I'll go into that in just a minute. But we're probably more like Jairus' daughter. We never reach maturity. We've never reached maturity, and the woman that hemorrhaging is representing the same thing. She looks like religion is right. She looks like she's a life giver, just like religion looks good. It looks good on paper. It raises money. It gets you sweaty, but it doesn't bring about life.
But Ron, I see me as that woman who was hemorrhaging, because I was looking and I'm sorry.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I was that woman who was hemorrhaging because I would church hop, go from place to place, and still no one could really, I don't want to say make me feel whole, but no one could do or give me what I'm getting now. Does that make sense?
It does. What I'm trying hard to do is pull those two women together. Spiritually, they're the same, one and the same. Spiritually, they're one and the same. That young girl dying means something. This is saying, I have I am in this hole. I have given my all to this, and I'm going to give this up. I'm going to give up who I thought I was. I'm going to let this die. When the woman that was hemorrhaging is made whole, then Jesus heals the young girl. So which says, in the future, from now on, I have touched the past, I have touched the present, I have touched the future. All of that is made whole. So with us today, the things we do, if you think about our ancestors and what they had to go through, remember when we went back and apologized and asked for forgiveness? All of that is a part of this. Because when you become spirit, when you recognize the wisdom in you and you say, I want this, this resonates with me, and this is who I am, then that crosses all boundaries. There are no boundaries. You stand for every man, no matter how many or stand with you or against you. It doesn't matter. The crowd kept touching him. They did not recognize who or what it was. That man, it was people who are setting fire to ballots. They're touching you. They don't recognize who you are. They don't recognize what's at stake here. Those people are following Donald Trump. They have no idea what spirituality is. They have no idea what's really at stake here. This isn't about making America great again. We are developing and building and bringing awareness to a whole different level. We're not talking about politics here.
Ron, when you make the statement like about people not knowing, the crowd, the multitude touches wisdom. For example, the multitude reads the scriptures. The multitude it looks in Proverbs, searches for wisdom. And the multitude does not recognize what's actually being said there. They don't recognize the message, the spiritual message that's involved in the parables of the stories that's being told. And the example of that is what you were talking about. This scripture is read over and over and is referred to as pertaining to a little girl, her daddy, this man called Jesus, and this woman whose cycle refuses to end. That's not the wisdom of it at all. That's the religious explanation. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Yes.
So the wisdom has always been present, but it was not recognized simply because the multitude believed that the enlightenment is what they get from church, even though they're getting the same thing over and over again with no understanding. And when, quote unquote, the Holy Spirit shows up, they shout, they run, they sweat. And they translate that as being in the Spirit, or the Holy Spirit touching them, without even recognizing that they are spirit itself. As you are explaining it, it is when you throw off the shackles of religion and the enlightenment that you have been ever since you've been in this body begins to give you a peek into what wisdom looks like. And it quickens you. It makes you alive, because now you have gotten a taste of it and you're excited and you want it more. And the more that you get, the more you begin to see how the life of the spiritual life was draining from you, not because it was leaving you, but from your thoughts, your understandings of spirituality. You're being put further and further in the dark with that understanding. However, because of your hunger to embrace wisdom as a result of your being enlightened, you began to see the necessity of holding onto the wisdom and searching to see what this wisdom is speaking about. And when you do that, religion ceases to be drained into you. Religion ceases to be in control of your life. Religion ceases to manipulate your life. And now you are alive. And what has brought you to this place of living, the life that you were granted when you were created, is the energy of the one that gave you life, which is femininity. And now you realize the fruitless journey that you had taken, going everywhere, as Evelyn said, church hopping. As we talked about preacher to preacher, we talked about trying to make sense of the messages that have been delivered to you, but you can't. But now you begin to make sense of it all, simply because you have been quickened and you have continued the journey. And as such, you have begun to mature in your understanding and awareness as to who you are and what all of these metaphors mean. That makes sense?
Very well said.
Yes,
sir.
it does.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Add
So-
this part.
Go ahead.
Add this for me. In this day and time, the multitude can also mean your thoughts. Recognize who you are. Recognize who you are and what that which is taking place in us and with us, individually and as a group. There's nothing that can change who you are. There's nothing that anybody can do, or they can take every one of these ballots. It doesn't even matter. What we do is put things out in the macro. This doesn't matter. We recognize who we are, and we stand on what we believe, what we see, and what we feel. So you are the enlightened. As Jairus' name says, you are the enlightenment. We are the enlightenment. And nothing can rattle that. So,
And then you begin to understand something. You begin to understand that what you thought were your thoughts were not. They were thoughts that you were indoctrinated with. And when you begin to see what enlightenment, what wisdom is saying, what it means, it is at that point that you begin to have thoughts that were not infused in you for the purpose of manipulating you. You begin to see that your thoughts are thoughts that reaches out for mankind and not just for you. You begin to see that church membership is simply a club that separates itself from people who are searching for guidance, or people who the church has deemed to be in the world. Not realizing that we are in this world, but not of it. So your thoughts are different now because they are your thoughts, as opposed to being thoughts that was infused into you. Is that clear?
Yes.
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 I believe that one of our greatest struggles is struggling to know what we think, to know what we believe, as opposed to what we have been told to believe or to think.
I agree that.
I'm done.
Good evening, everyone. This is George GC out of Philly. Ron, I just want to first start off, by saying I sincerely appreciate you ushering us into this session. And what you said, Ron, was I sought to seek, understand, how Spirit was speaking with you in reference to you sharing what you are sharing. And you mentioned about, the number 12 represents the completion of a cycle and the beginning of a new one. And what I felt tonight was you giving of your spirit where it's resonating so strong with me, and that's out of love for who you are and how you want to bring us into an awareness with regards to not only who we are, but being able to appreciate the gifts that we're blessed with. When you mention the number 12, it's associated with spiritual growth. If we're on the calls for the purpose of spiritual growth, that we all can obtain, if we have the desire to grow spiritually, we have the opportunity where we can connect with one another, where we
Yeah.
can catch the Spirit. We can move with the Spirit. And in terms of our enlightenment and wisdom. But the Bible says, in all of your wisdom, get understanding.
Yeah.
And so as we're getting this understanding, we're moving from the physical realm into a spiritual realm, and that could be vice versa. But I believe that tonight you put out in the atmosphere that we all have this opportunity. And I'm thankful again to be able to listen, but at the same time, as Pastor mentioned, in terms of the thoughts that we had with regards to our religious understanding, but being able to grasp it in the spiritual realm now, where we can move from what we know to what we need to do. And so
Yes.
I just wanted to share those thoughts, because it's important, that as we get on our podcast, on these sessions, I mean, it is so strongly being spoken, and I'm just praying that I can continue to receive, and thank you, for all that you do. And at the same time, it talked about, what does 12 mean spiritually? And you spoke of it in terms of completion of a cycle and the beginning of a new one. So what is the new cycle? What is it that we're being ushered into? And it says that the number 12 spiritually is associated with reaching a higher consciousness and experiencing spiritual growth. Not look at it or think about it or experiencing the spiritual growth. Not so much
Yeah.
what we're just saying, but experiencing it. And it says, again, it's just symbolizes, the path that we're on. So I just wanted to share those thoughts and just thank you and everyone else for your input and words. I'm done, Ron.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. There was more to 12, and I kind of got a little excited, and then you made that very clear. Thank you, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Audrey. Hey,
Hey,
everybody.
Audrey.
I just wanted to add to what George was saying, because I'm sitting here thinking the whole time, yeah, this lady she'd had a lot of experience, but she didn't, seems to me this is like a seek and find kind of thing. She was really on a mission to get her questions answered and find what she was looking for. And she didn't give up for the 12 years, even though she had all these experiences of going to places and finding out that they couldn't help her, they couldn't answer her questions. But she had a certain motive and intent that she knew it was out there somewhere. So she kept going. She didn't give up. And I assume she heard something about this person called Jesus. And something must have resonated with her, because she didn't let the crowd, even though she was supposed to be unclean, and if she had been caught out there in the midst of the crowd, she would have been stoned to death.
Yeah.
But she was not going to let anything stop her from doing what she needed to do to get what she needed. So she had motive, and she had intent, and she knew that the answer she was seeking was out there somewhere, and she didn't give up. And all of her experiences must have given her some motivation that there was this enlightenment out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So Yeah, we all have our journeys to go on. But if we continue to seek and seek and seek and seek, when we find, we know that that's what it is. We know that we've found the truth. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I apologize. No, go ahead. I'll yield.
The only thing I was going to say, and I'll let you come up and y'all wrap this up. I got ahead of myself. I was excited about this. And picture this. Every character, every name here is you. Is you. Think about your journey. Jairus is the part of you where the light bulb goes off and puts things into motion. You want to know where truth is. I'm reading the scriptures or whatever, or I'm hearing this preacher or whatever, and this isn't making sense to me, but I know where I can go. Maybe there's other people like me, and we start off as a small group, and we start searching, we start asking questions, and the 12, the cycles are just that. They're cycles. A new cycle starts. A new cycle starts. And when I get some enlightenment, a new cycle starts. And then that old me has to die. All of that has to die. And I move to a place where that circle is getting bigger. And I'm challenging now what I'm feeling inside. I'm beginning to feel comfortable with this uncomfortable feeling inside. Uncomfortable because I've had it and didn't know what to do with it, but I'm getting comfortable with it now. So I find a group of people here, and I started seeing wisdom. I started seeing wisdom, and I recognize that this thing that's been shut up in me, this thing that I have not been allowed to talk about or to see clearly, this is we're gonna call it femininity, and I'm gonna let it be free. And once it becomes free, I start seeing things. And I recognize, as Evelyn said, I've been hemorrhaging for a long time. I've been wanting to see life. Life has been in me, but I could not birth anything. But I mentioned to you at the beginning, this is where we are now. If you look at verse 51, he says, and he had come to the house and allowed to enter with him, except no one but Peter, John, and James. Every one of us has an inner circle. Every one of us has an inner circle. That inner circle is what gives you strength. That inner circle is that part when you talk to yourself. Okay, Ron, don't let that bother you. Let's keep going. Okay, take a deep breath. Let's keep going. Okay, Jesus. Okay, I need to get alone to the ancestors. Go for a walk. That's your inner circle.
Yes.
Go for a walk. Get to yourself. But the thing about it, all this BS, all this stuff we see, when you look at verse 52, 53, when people doubt you, when people start laughing, when people start burning ballots, when people talk about getting their guns, when people talk about Kamala Harris in this manner or that manner, know who you are. Know who you are. The journey that you have taken is your witness. That's your witness. We know who we are. And the cycle says that, as we have talked about with the age of Aquarius, and we're walking into something new. We will continue to walk in something new. This is, to me, the describing the atmosphere, and you guys have explained it well, and if somebody will tie it up again for me or whatever. I just want to make sure everybody can understand it. Any questions?
Yes, Ron, this is Angela. I got a question. Jared's daughter, is she dying from to the religious ways of what she's been taught, or is she dying from the lack of unawareness? That's what.
Here's what I see, Angela, and you guys speak to this. We've looked at it now. You guys speak to it too. Jairus' daughter represents that part inside of you that should be growing, should be becoming enlightened, but is being stifled out, being smothered by religion. Women have been smothered by religion. You can put on the white gloves, you can serve food or whatever, but there's certain things you can and cannot do. There's certain things in your own home you can and cannot do. And as a result of it, as a result of men smothering women, they have smothered themselves. We have been, I'm going to say half-assed. We have been half of who we are designed to be, because we are afraid of somebody seeing our femininity. We are afraid of being human. So I see her as the half of us that is dying because it has not been allowed to live. Can somebody else explain it better or see it differently, please?
I understand what you're saying.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
I don't want us to leave thinking about that this scripture is about Jared or his daughter or some woman who touched a man called Jesus. It has nothing to do with that. It is a story that is told that covers up a spiritual truth. And the reason spiritual truth is not written as we have talked about it is because truth has to be searched for. And everything that we have talked about in regards to these scriptures, everything is who we are. And this is by talking about these scriptures the way we have, it is making us aware of who we are and how we got to where we are, and how things had kept us on the verge of death, really, prior to this desire for enlightenment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
So,
does.
It does. Yes.
please don't think that we're talking. This is a story about a man and his daughter, and a woman touching this man called Jesus. It's far, far more than that.
George, were you about to say something? I think I cut you off earlier. Sorry about that.
No, I was just gonna, reiterate when Pastor was and yourself was talking about seeking. My spiritual journey, has led me, to appreciate, the importance of recovery, and in that, there's just something that I just would like to share with everyone in terms of the 11th step of the spiritual journey, the 12 steps of spiritual journey. And not so much that you have to go through steps, but I think that it said in step 11 that having sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact of God as I understood the Spirit, praying for the knowledge of its will and power to carry it out. So to me, again, to be able to seek, you know what I mean? And to the desire to, you know, seek the truth, to know the truth. So again, it's something that I think and I know I have to continually be in search for, because I think it's ever evolving to the point, you know, where I can be at peace to know that I can rise above what appears to be any tough situation, but knowing who I am, you know, is so important. And I know, Pastor, you have talked about that before, you know, a little bit in terms of not so much in terms of always having to be in recovery, but there comes a point in time that you know that you know that you know. And I just wanted to share those thoughts, Ron, again. Thanks for letting me share. I'm done.
Thank you, George. I was looking at something earlier this morning, and what I've noticed is a lot of people in social media, even books out there, are talking about ancestors, how to get in contact with their ancestors, how to commune with your ancestors. We are where we are because somebody at some point in time laid the groundwork, and we came and picked up the mantle. There was something out there in the atmosphere, in the macro, that we grasp, and it is our responsibility as we are doing is putting stuff out there, and other people are grasping it, and this thing is catching on. It's catching on. That's the beauty of it. So when we talk about our energy and focus, and don't forget your meditations or prayers or whatever you want to call them, but keep focusing, keep going on truth, keep looking at the direction and focus on what we set out to accomplish when we started this journey. So, but thank you everybody. Any thoughts or questions? I don't want to stop or end if someone has anything to say. Okay.
Ron,
Well, yes, ma'am.
this is Evelyn. Did I miss it, or Pastor? Did you talk more about Jared's daughter? You said there's more than what we see. Did you ever go into that, or I missed it?
I think Ron covered it when he was talking about Jared's daughter represents the immaturity in us, spiritual immaturity in us. And the lady with the issue of blood represented the religion that was being drained from us or something in that manner. Ron, would you like to pick that up?
Yeah, I think Evelyn herself kind of explained the one with the issue of blood. We have been looking for something to grasp, and there's been nothing. It looked good, it sounded good. She's been looking and searching for something that has eluded her because there was nothing there. It was empty.
But Jared's
empty.
What I'm talking about, Ron.
Jared's daughter.
Yes, Jared's daughter. Yes.
Yeah. Jared's daughter represents. Now think about it. It becomes clear if you don't see Jared as a person, you see it as your pursuit. Whatever it was that motivated Evelyn to move to start searching for the truth that was in her is Jared. It means to be enlightened. I'm going to enlighten something. I'm going to see. I'm going to find what I am searching for. In other words, I'm going to set out to find this thing. So that immaturity that is in us, that we've been searching for, that we have been expecting to balloon into something, to grow into something, as I understood religion to be, what I've come to see is this thing has no value. If I look at it from a conscious perspective, it has no value in me. This is nothing. Religious is nothing. There is nothing to remember. There is nothing that I'm going to gain from it. There is no perspective that I can leave for anybody. There is no other vantage point that this takes me to see God. So what am I doing? That's why it had to die.
I got it. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Ron,
Yes, ma'am.
I still have some question about that, and I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like there's more to it. Because
Okay.
I feel like in Jewish culture, this, and I know this is a story that brings out a truth, but I want to sort of put it in a cultural perspective, because that can be part of what the truth that we're thinking about. Because in Jewish culture, this girl at 12 years old, she would have been ready for her bat mitzvah, which is
Yes.
the ceremony that, yeah, going into womanhood, so to speak. So I think it's saying that, yes, it represents immaturity, but I think it's immaturity on the precipice of finding that thing. So on the precipice, and because she had some masculine energy around to help her take the next step, in terms of searching for enlightenment. Had she not had that masculine energy who was an advocate for her,
Mhm.
for her, yes, she would have like died on the vine, so to speak, or rotten on the vine, as opposed to moving into the enlightenment. So I think because that masculine energy was there to advocate for her, the enlightenment could happen, could take place, especially when, in terms of women being so entrenched in religion, sometimes they can't see their way clear because they're so oppressed and submerged and suffocated. Sometimes they can't see their way clear. At which time they do need that masculine energy advocate to do something to help them get clear of all that confusion and suffocation and whatever. So I guess I'm thinking that the figure of that young girl on the precipice of enlightenment needed that masculine energy to advocate for her. Do you see where I'm going with this? I don't quite know if I'm fully thought it all out, but I feel like there's a lot more there.
Now, let me make sure I'm following, because I do. What are you, when you're saying the masculine energy, are you talking about Jesus?
No, I'm talking about Jairus at this point.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was the one that went to ask for help or whatever.
Yeah, I saw it as him surrendering the title, him surrendering who okay, I believe this about religion. I'll give God, all of my heart to God, and the only way I know to serve that is through the being a Baptist Christian. And all of a sudden one day that no longer works for me. But it's been eating at me for a long time that there's something missing, there's something more. And finally the day comes where I just throw my hands up, because this thing that's inside of me, I'm pursuing it. And that's the route, whether or not I bring shame to myself because I'm supposed to be this big person in the Baptist church or not, doesn't matter. I moved to the place where nothing matters to me. So that to me is what causes hurt, sickness, and death, is that I abandoned this thing that has been growing in me that I thought I supposed to be. Does that make sense?
I'm looking for something because I was searching as you guys were talking. And what I've seen so far is that the word for enlightenment and the word for wisdom are the same or come from the same root.
Okay.
And that's what I am currently looking for, because if that's so, then that means that enlightenment is also feminine, doesn't it?
Wow. You know, when I looked that up, I didn't even look at that.
So that's what I'm trying to see. And I don't know why that's stuck in my craw.
Can I ask
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Ron, your description, and Audrey, your description. Audrey, are you saying that the daughters representing feminine energy, he had to give up?
Suppressed or suffocated, yeah.
Was until he realized, then I'm going back to being physical. Until he ignored femininity until it became eminent to him he was going to lose his daughter, and then he was willing to give up all that masculine energy or hard-headedness.
Well, he was willing to surrender to the fact that it's hard to jump from the story to the spiritual, but he was willing to surrender his all-knowing, all-controlling self to go out and find something to advocate for this feminine energy that was being suppressed, and to find something to help it be enlightened, so to speak. Do you see what I mean?
I think I do, because Ron, you said earlier that all three of these are the same person, right? The same entity.
Yes, that's how I'm trying to see it. And I think Audrey is saying the same thing. She's saying in a lot more detail that I can say it. And I see what she's saying, and that to shape it too, or trying to pull it together.
Thank you both. That helped me.
It's a lot easier, though, if I see Audrey's point. If I look at these as separate entities and maybe make the point there, then pull them all together. But the point that I was trying to make, and I think we're in this part saying the same thing. This is a recognition and a fight of the value of feminine energy and
Yeah, agree.
masculine. Yeah, masculinity notices that and fights for it, and if he does not turn, because that's why he's enlightenment. If he does not turn and surrender before he falls to the feet, his search is his surrender. He doesn't see Jesus because Jesus is not dressed as a priest. He is not carrying himself as though I'm a helper. So what makes Jared see him? Jairus. Out of all those throngs of people. I'm sorry, Pastor, what'd you say?
I just had an epiphany.
Okay.
Suppose we're looking at this in a way that is different than the story by one thing. Suppose that once you're enlightened, you seek to be delivered from the immaturity that you recognize as religion. Because Yeshua, Jesus means to deliver, right?
Mm-hmm.
So suppose that's deliverance from that immaturity that is religion. And as you are engaged in the journey of being delivered from it, you begin to see the adverse effect that it was having on you, as opposed to you recognizing spirituality. Suppose that you were able to see that this was draining the very life from you, simply because you had been delivered from the shackles or the bondage of religion. And during this process of deliverance, and you recognize that, you begin to think, you know what, I have been everywhere searching. And now here I am, I understand what is not to be, but I'm searching for what it is supposed to look like. If we look at that as deliverance, as opposed to wisdom.
I can see that.
Audrey, is that sort of kind of in the ball field where you are?
I can see that. I also see the young immature feminine energy as that's suffocated by religion as dying, but also even if and the older woman with the issue of blood is also feminine energy that survived, but is slowly, the life is draining out of her.
Mm-hmm.
literally in the story, but also Yeah, even though she survived because she was continued to be in religion or whatever, the very life was just draining out of her until she found deliverance, basically. Yeah.
Because the whole concept of being delivered from religion, it was hidden, meaning that it was covered by a garment. It was hidden. Spirituality had been hidden. So when you're delivered from religion, you begin to understand what deliverance truly represents. Because when you're delivered from religion, that is when you become more aware of what wisdom is, or the wisdom of being delivered. So I see this as being feminine probably all the way through, because isn't the deliverance, is it not feminine, or is it masculine? That would make all the difference in the world, wouldn't it? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I truly believe, and I got to do more searching probably, but I truly believe that we will find more femininity in the words that describe Jesus and the activities that he engaged in. When you talk about the healing, when you talk about bringing into the fold people who were open to walking away from religion and learning at the feet of deliverance itself. Is that not feminine throughout the scriptures? Because if you want to understand a community or a nation, look at its women, because that's who spend the most time with the children. So would not disciples be as children? So all of these activities of Jesus, I got to look at those again, because it appears to me that we are reading a story about how femininity, feminine energy functions. And we are reading it from a mindset that has made everything in the story that has value or that is in control or has authority has made it masculine. So I do think that we will probably be visiting this or revisiting it for a while. Because I think that we should put fresh eyes on that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that would
I
make a
agree.
difference.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
too.
I agree.
Yeah, because Jarius, their surrender or their submission is kind of culturally feminine or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that we are talking about feminine energy or feminine, the rhythm of femininity throughout this. Why? Also because it is actually birthing something in. So.
Oh, Pastor, one more question. So was Jesus married? He had to have been married to Mary of Magdalene, right? During
No.
this ministry, during this time?
No.
No?
Now, this is the difference, Evelyn. When we talked about the non-existence of this man that was labeled Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
we began to see the spiritual stories involved, but we also saw something else. Wherever there was a position of authority, it was always made to be a male.
Okay.
So we need to look more at the words, whether they're feminine or masculine words, right?
Uh-huh.
And the actions of this entity that was named Jesus, which is actually a deliverer. I think that we need to look at it. Why? Because it was the Romans and the Greeks who transposed these writings into what is called the scriptures. And we know for a fact that they preferred and wrote in terms of all authority and power being in the hands of men. So I think we need to revisit that in terms of the marriage of Mary Magdalene. I know what I've taught about that, but I still think it needs to be revisited. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, sir.
Because it's
Thank
not
you.
Mary Magdalene, you're welcome. It's Mary of Magdala.
Yeah, that's what I said. I
Okay,
didn't say Mary. Oh, you just, yeah, I said Mary of Magdalene. Yes, of Magdala.
now, if
Because
she
that's where she was from,
of
right?
Magdala, a place of towers, which means a place of elevation.
Right.
So I think we need to revisit that.
Okay. Sounds interesting.
This is the same chapter 2, where in the beginning it's talking about Jesus surrounding himself with women, Joanna and Susanna and Mary and all of them. And then they were providing the means for them to carry out their ministry. So, yeah.
They were the missionaries who were giving all the money to the pastors to carry out the ministry. The male. So I truly.
Wait a minute. You are joking, aren't you?
I don't know. But I do think we need to revisit that. I really do. So, Ron, you have your work cut out for you.
Yes, we do.
Well said, Rod.
But your point is well taken. I mean, I like when you insert deliverance. I'm thinking of some other scriptures where that applies and it's easier to see. You know, because we've had this conversation on a number of times, but it's instilled in us to see Jesus. See Jesus when we look at the writing in red and see this man and these stories that's been popped in our head, been filled in our head since we were kids. But we're moving past that and seeing the enlightenment in all of this and what these the energy and what these parables are trying to teach us. So yeah, I like deliverance. So that we'll look at that and see if it applies, how it applies, and whether or not it's talking about it very well could be, in some cases, talking about both. You know,
It could very well be.
but
However, I do believe revisiting it will give us a clearer understanding of everything that's in red.
yeah. So yeah, I like that. Great discussion, though. Great discussion. I love this.
And I want to point out something too.
Okay.
To those of you who are on, please understand that when we're looking at scriptures like this, we have no problem walking away from something that we thought it was when we see what it really is. Because our primary, not just primary, our total objective is to teach the truth of what's written, as opposed to the misconception or the misleading stories about what is written. That's all I want to add on.
Okay. Again, beautiful discussion. Enjoyed this, and we will continue it. And if you have any thoughts or questions about it, bring them with you, and we'll start Saturday. But you guys have a great week, okay? Enjoy your week, and thanks again, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening. Everyone have a good one.
Good evening. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.